Hello and welcome back to the Growth Vantage Podcast. My name is Garrett Vita and I'm your host. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some questions to ask yourself so you can better understand the psychology of the wealthy. The reason why I don't say mindset is because that when you better understand their psychology, you understand the logistics of the mindset. The mindset is at the forefront. When we think about psychology, it's all the parts of the way that person thinks that leads to what you see of the mindset. And so I want to give you some questions that I ask myself to really ask and prepare myself when I go into meeting with people that aspire to be, maybe mentors or, situations where I need to better understand from someone who's been there and done that. And so these are just broad questions that I do ask myself. And the reason why I say broad is because each mentor or person you inspire to be that you're going to meet with, that you're going to have to tailor these questions a little more specifically to that person, their personality, and their business, and whatever it is. So I'm going to give you a few questions I do ask to help you better understand how you should intentionally go into meeting with your mentors and what kind of questions to ask them. First question I ask is, why did they say that? Or why did they come to that conclusion? When we think about this question, it's not just from a business perspective. You're really thinking about like a life perspective. Was encompassing from their past experiences? Was it coming from how their parents taught them? Where did they learn this from their childhood? And so when we start to think of like the long-term spectrum of that why within this question, we can start to see like, oh, these are some habits they took along the way. Or maybe they're pointing out something they didn't really like when they were growing up that affected them, and they would have adjusted something differently. And so that can really help us understand like, okay, he's saying this because of this reason. When we understand the why of that question, we can better understand like, okay, this is a good starting point of where I should be asking questions and to better understand them as well as how they are approaching a business or investment or whatever the topic is. One of the questions that I do like to ask, and I do ask quite a bit to speakers, or when I do get the chance to talk to speakers or to mentors or people that I aspire to be, is what are some lessons you've learned from your parents that helped you become successful today? Depending on what the answer is, I'd really say in a business manner, because sometimes they'll give you like about health. I mean, it's not your intention to learn about health, then be more specific in that. And the reason I ask is because a lot of times our parents teach us a lot of things that help us build today. And so asking me that why question helps me understand what habits did the parents teach them that helped them get there. Because the parents taught them something to be successful. So if I can adopt that same habit, it's going to put me in a better position moving forward. Another thing that I like to ask, this is kind of like a two-sided question, is what questions do I ask and how are they analyzing a situation? So this is two-part because it's like one after another. And so it's so important to really see like when you go to the mentor for a question or you're in a situation or they're talking about their deal or the opportunity or whatever it is they're talking about, really see how they analyzing it. And you do that by asking like what questions are they asking themselves. And so let me give you a scenario so I can shed more light on this. So I was for my development project, I initially hired a project manager, but I had to exit that contract because for lighting purposes. I was never my intention to exit that contract, but I didn't really have much of a choice. Project manager didn't like it, so I had to come on a settlement, which wasn't really the funnest experience, but I had to do it and we got it done, which is a good part. And so she was asking for half the contract price initially, but she didn't work that much, and so I wasn't too happy about that. And so I went to my mentor to see like what should I do, how should I approach it, and all that. And so in the process of him telling me what to do, I was trying to also double dip it by seeing how should I approach this kind of situation in the future, so that I wouldn't have to ask him again. Because how he approaches it is how I should approach difficult situations as well. And so what I learned from this is that I should think big picture about these kinds of scenarios. These smaller settlement deals that you do lose money, which I did lose money to exit, which sucks. And I think there's a tendency to always focus on the small part of it. But what I learned from that situation is that get out of that situation ASAP and think long term as soon as possible about that goal and focus on that goal. Don't worry about the money you made that you lost. Get rid of it and move on as fast as possible. And so from that experience, I really learned like, okay, don't worry about it. Just move on and focus on what you got into this project for. It's really to make a lot more than $5,000. And so in that same scenario or types of scenarios, I'll see what kind of questions they're asking and what comments they're making. And then I'll see like, okay, that'll tell me like he's thinking this question, asking that question, and that question. I should be taking note of those kinds of questions so that I know I can actually just walk myself through those same exact questions in the future as well. Remember, why are they saying that? Or how did they come to that conclusion? How are they analyzing the situation, and what questions are they asking? It's so important to ask these questions so that you can better understand how the wealthy people that we aspire to be interact. And I would definitely really encourage you to have a list of questions in your phone that you can put in that you specifically will ask your mentors or those people that you don't have much contact with, like speakers at events. You know, for many speakers, so that might be the only time you get to talk with them. So you really got to come in intentionally with those questions. And I would encourage you to ask questions that really help you to understand how their psychology is and how they think. I started to create one, and I would like to share with you guys as well. Just a few of them. So these questions I don't really ask just normally anybody. So I say these questions specifically when I am someone that I aspire to be, a mentor, because I know mentors don't have much time as well, or if I'm at an event, if I'm I'm with one of the speakers. One of the questions that I put down is, what questions do you ask yourself to challenge your way of thinking? Another one is, what do you look for when hiring team members? And the last one I'll give you is, when was your most difficult time in business and how did you get out of it? What did you learn from this experience? Based off these questions, I'll be able to pick apart how they're thinking, because it's going to come from their experience, from their habits, and they have to intentionally think about it. So it'll help me see like what kind of questions they're asking as well. Make a list of questions to better understand the psychology of the wealthy as well as your mentors. Take some action, because these questions can really help you better understand how you can level up, and it sure has helped me out so far. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you next time.